so cool. If someone hands you a guitar at a party, if you play something like that, it's that familiar sound of the blues, but it's also badass because of the way he's playing it, the inflections and the nuance that he's putting in there. Hey there, so today we're talking about Hideaway by Freddie King, because this is a great song for jamming. It's a killer song. It's got that Texas blues sound. Okay, so let's take a listen. Alright, so here's Freddie King. He's awesome. So it's great melody. It's cool how he's playing with a little thumb finger pick there. So, alright, so it's a classic tune, right? Great one to learn. Here's the basic melody. I'll show it for you real quick. So if you look on the screen there, it's basically just in the key of E. It's like a kind of a 12-bar format, and he's just playing this cool little melody. It's a major melody. Freddie King would do a lot of jumping between the major and the minor pentatonic, which then went on to influence people like Stevie Ray Vaughan and everyone really. But so that's the basic melody there. There's variations on there. So basically you're just kind of hammering on to the second fret and then sliding up and doing those pull-offs. But one of the best lessons I've ever seen on this comes from Stevie Ray Vaughan himself. And let's take a look at this little lesson that he gives and break it down, because it's amazing how he shows basically how to kind of get that groove under your fingers and then be able to kind of apply different styles to it and then bring your own signature style to the song. So let's take a look at Stevie himself doing this, which is incredible. I just love watching this.
For instance, okay,
Right,
Freddie King does Hideaway like.
Oh, let's change the guitars. So it's so cool. You know, if someone hands you a guitar at a party and asks you what to play, if you play something like that, it just is amazing because it's that familiar sound of the blues, but it's also badass because of the way he's playing it, the inflections and the nuance that he's putting in there. Like, for example, instead of just doing that hammer on, he's doing this like slide where he just creates this really big sound. The way he's doing that is he does this kind of half slide. So instead of sliding from the first fret to the second fret, he's kind of jumping, he's kind of hitting the fret and then sliding into the note. So it's... So rather than it being... It creates this kind of just this slippery kind of sound. You know, when you hear him playing that, it's such a bad, mean rhythm because he's doing this. He's playing the basic boogie beat, but he's damping it, and he's playing it with a really hard swing. Right? He's playing it with a heavy shuffle, where he's accenting the upbeats. So it's kind of like it's that thing, but he's playing it with all downstrokes. I'll slow it down a little bit. So basically, it's going back and forth between rhythm and lead. And one of the best ways you can start with this is just by learning that song, right? So it starts with this little hammer on, and then you jump into the rhythm part. And then you're going to start, a lot of times when he comes into the little lead section, jumping back and forth between rhythm and lead, he'll start with an upstroke. So you'll go. So that upstroke, so it's 1, 2, 3, like that. And that's a good way to jump back into the lead, right? So 1, 2, 3. All right. So that's a good way to get into there. It's just the transition in. And then he plays this really cool little trill. So he's just walking down the scale. And then instead of going back to the basic boogie, he does a rolling boogie like that, where you're walking up. And then these little subtleties and these nuances are really what makes it cool. If you watch here, actually, let me slow it down for you a little bit. Now see how he accents that note? What he does is after he does the rolling boogie, he snaps it with his finger like that to get that note to jump out. So, and then he plays that little, so that riff right there where you go from basically it's going from an A back to an E, and that's an integral part of the blues, is that idea of jumping back and forth between the 1 and the 4 chord. And essentially most of the time it's based around beat 4, so you're going 1, 2, 3. That's the idea, right? There's millions of licks based around that idea of that little movement. All the great guitar players have their signature licks, right? Stevie had his lick. Jimi Hendrix. Clapton. But what if those guys are playing exactly the same lick? They still sound like them, right? So if you look at them playing the same lick, that's a great way of picking up what are the nuances in their playing that make them sound unique. Because it's not just about the notes, it's about the feel, the attack of the notes, their sustain, and how they are treating each note.
There's a small difference there.
So those small differences, you can learn a lot from picking up on those. And that song, Hideaway, that's a song that a lot of the great blues players have played. Clapton played it, Stevie Ray Vaughan played it. In fact, let's listen to Clapton's version. All right, so you can hear Clapton's version there. The way he's playing it is he's doing something that Clapton was a real master of, and he's using the major pentatonic scale. Instead of playing it down here in open position, instead of playing it a la Freddie King or how Stevie Ray would play it, he plays it up here in the major pentatonic scale, which was something that Clapton's a real master of. So all you do there basically is, say you're playing in the key like of A, for example, you know, like Crossroads. So it's the same kind of idea there. So you're playing the key of A as your regular scale, the pentatonic. You just move that down 3 frets and it gets you into this major pentatonic scale. Now, here's the secret though. If you want to make it sound authentic and give it that kind of blues sound that Clapton's using, if you listen really carefully, he's doing something really interesting. He's not playing a minor third or a major third. He's playing a note that's in between, and I call it the blue third. It's basically, you'd think it's out of tune because it's not either of the notes on the piano, but it's a slightly sharp minor third or a slightly flat major third. It's the note in between the cracks, right? Like, so if you listen to that lick, he's bending up, but it's not, he's not bending to the minor third, which is here. It'd be, and he's not bending all the way to the major third, which sounds too pretty. The major third sounds too pretty for blues most of the time, unless you're hammering on. And the minor third has that distinct dissonant sound. But when you go in between those two, it gives you a really amazing, authentic, it's like a perfect mix of major and minor. And that's the sound of the blues right there. That's one of the sounds of the blues. It's a nuanced, kind of delicate thing, but it really makes those notes stand out. It's almost like mimicking the sound of a slide guitar too, because it's those in-between notes. And when you listen to Stevie playing, he's doing exactly the same thing. If you listen to him, he's playing that same note. But when you're listening to Stevie, there's something distinctly different in his playing. And something that you can really learn from him is just how embedded the rhythm is in his playing, right? I mean, Stevie uses a lot of open strings, so he's playing licks like, let me just switch guitars for a second. Okay, Stevie's tuned down to E flat. So he's playing these licks like, these open string licks like. So you can really hear the rhythm play. I mean, just look at his leg when he's playing. The whole time that rhythm is he's not just playing to the rhythm is embedded in the licks that he's playing. So he's effortlessly moving back and forth between the rhythm and the lead there, and you can see that rhythmic way he's playing. He keeps that hand kind of moving like this. He keeps his leg moving like this. But it's not only an awareness of the rhythm, it's actually part of the sound as well. Like you'll hear when he jumps up here, when he plays the single note stuff, you can still hear that rhythmic sound in it. You know, because he's kind of almost like strumming, and when he hits those single notes, rather than just hearing the individual note, you're also hearing that kind of metallic clash of hitting those adjacent strings with that kind of strum. And it really makes the notes stand out. That's part of his sound, is that kind of strumming, picking effect. And it's very rhythmic, but that percussive sound also really makes it jump out. Now, it's interesting, in this video, he actually goes into this amazing lesson where he tells us some observations about what he thinks about Clapton's playing, and his observations are absolutely fantastic.
Clapton does it like this.
Amazing. So you can hear, you know, when he hits that first note, he's using that strum style. And then his vibrato. Clapton has this signature vibrato that is this kind of floating vibrato. It's kind of unlike anyone else. And it gives the notes this kind of slow, liquid kind of richness. It gives it a very vocal-like sound, right? It's not like a fast vibrato like B.B. King's. It's kind of in the middle, but it's this way basically where what you do is you kind of lock your arm like this, and then you bend your fingers over like this. So your first finger is kind of jutted up against the rest of the hand, and then the thumb is floating in the back like this, and then he's going to rock that string. It takes a lot of practice to get this. He rocks the string like this. So it gives this really free-floating vibrato. Another thing that Clapton's doing that Stevie latches onto is how he'll snap the notes shut, especially when he's doing that blue third. He'll kind of bend up that dissonant blue third, and then he snaps the note with this kind of like ends the duration of the note with a very clipped kind of sound. And sometimes he'll do it with a little hammer on as well. He'll end the note like that and just kind of jump onto another note just to seal that phrase shut. So let's take a look at the rhythm, and then I'm going to show you how to get into the lead licks from that. So when you hear a Muddy Waters record, right, you hear that infectious rolling groove. It just casts such a spell on you. It's really about those little inconsistencies and those nuances. So the first step is to become a master of that basic rhythm, right? So whether you're playing blues or jazz or funk or anything, each one of those genres has fundamental grooves associated with it. You can learn all your jazz chords, you know, but if you can't get that swing, you know, it's not going to sound authentic. So that really comes from immersing yourself in the music. So for me, that's rock and roll. That's that basic boogie woogie. So mastering that feel isn't about just kind of holding down that basic beat. It's about the push and pull and add those nuances to it. So for rock and roll, you've got that basic beat, right, which is just going back and forth. And that shuffle beat there is based on a triplet. So the idea there is you've actually got 3 notes to each beat, but the first 2 are tied together. So you got 1 and 2 and So that's the essence of a shuffle, but there's lots of things that you can do with that. So the first thing is, are you going to have long ringing notes? Or are you going to have more short staccato notes like this? Which is more what Stevie's doing. And one of the ways you can achieve those is through the process of muting. There's a few different ways to do that. Like you'll see Stevie's actually using this left hand when he's playing like that. But you can also do a little bit of muting here with the right hand. You kind of choke it to various degrees to really muted, to just slightly muted. But here's one of the secrets is to mute that middle note of the triplet. You can actually just drop your pick in between. So you get this effect. One and. So when you bounce your hand like that, it naturally mutes that middle note, which it gives that kind of a cool energy and tightens it up. Then you can add in some of the augmentations. So the first one is just to do the basic flat 7. Once you've got that down, then you can place the accent in different places. By placing the accent on the downbeat, it sounds like this. Or placing it on the upbeat would be... And then you can accent individual notes within that. Like, for example, going... So the way you do that is just with an upstroke to accent. And what I'm doing is I'm laying my first finger down across the 4th string as well to bring in that octave. So there's a myriad of different specific licks that you can create just by where you place the accent. Then the next thing is you can start to actually change the notes. Like the first one would be the rolling boogie, which you can hear Stevie Ray Vaughan play. So there's lots of variations of that, but basically it's where you're walking up. Or there's the extended one. Okay, so then another one that you can do is like the Delta blues style pull off, like kind of like a Johnny Lee Hooker. So all you're doing there is on beat 4, and a lot of these licks start on beat 4. You're doing a pull off from the 3rd fret to the open string. So you're going. And then the last note there is you're jumping up to the octave right here. So you're just still laying your finger flat there, but you're pinging the 4th string. So you're getting this 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's also like the lick that, you know, Jimi Hendrix, you know, used for Voodoo Child. Another one similar to that is the Muddy Waters style quick 4, where you go to the A chord on beat 4 like this. All you're doing there is you're just flattening this finger, lifting it off on beat 4. Okay, so once you've got that, you've got all these different things that you can add into the basic beat. You've got the flat 7. You've got the Delta pull-off. You've got the quick 4. All these little things where you can start to kind of play with that basic rhythm. The lead parts are going to be expansions out of that. So, for example, if we take this quick 4, if you just put a little lick in straight before that on beat 3, like say, for example, going from a slide, that's a big part of the blues there, is that idea of the flat 5 or the blue note sliding into that. You can also bend into it, like the Voodoo Child, but it's that sound, it's the blue note. If you go 1, 2, and then on beat 3, you do a slide, and then you go to the quick 4, all of a sudden it starts to be a lick. 1, 2, slide, 4 chord, off. So it sounds like this. So you can see now you're starting to build this augmentation, which is lead guitar playing, but it's embedded within that rhythm. That rhythm is keeping going. So let's add another note in on beat 2. We'll start like Stevie did a lot of times to get into these licks. It helps to start with an upstroke. So you're going to start on the downbeat, so on beat 1, and then do an upstroke, and just walk down the scale. Do the little blue note slide, and then the 4 change. So just basically walking down the scale. That's a whole bar of lead, right? So let's put that all together now. So we'll do one whole bar of rhythm, and then we'll play bar of lead. So you hit the downbeat, then you're gonna snap that upbeat, walk down the scale, blues slide, quick 4, and then back in again. So right there, you've got a bar of rhythm, bar of lead. And then once you've got that, you can start to expand that idea into all kinds of different ways. So if you look at Stevie playing here, so look at this little lick he does. It's just like that, basically. But the place he's actually doing it is on the turnaround. So that's a great lick to learn there. It's the same kind of idea. You're going to start with the downbeat. He's tuned down a half step, but basically what he's doing is he's hitting the E chord, and then he's snapping that first string again, and then doing a pull off on the second string, and then he's doing this killer blues slide here, where he slides up, and then he's hitting the open strings there, and it gives it that kind of resonance. And then he does that slide, but he kind of like does this kind of tasty little slick slide like that, where he's kind of emphasizing that note, sliding into it. And then he does the major third hammer, which is a killer kind of accent to kind of pull it towards that kind of cool major sound. So you're just walking down the scale. So again, that's the same thing. It's one bar of lead. I'll play it slow. So those kind of licks are killer to get into because it's very connected to the triplet shuffle rhythm. Once you can do that, you can expand it and you can go up and down. You kind of move back and forth between the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. So Hideaway is a great way to kind of get that kind of basic idea. Alright, so I hope you have fun with that and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And, if you enjoyed this video, give us a subscribe. That really helps a lot. Drop a comment. And the main thing is have fun with the blues. And remember, turn it up.